Tell my father that his son didn't run or surrender, that I bore his name with pride as I try to remember. You are judged by what you do while passing through. As the rusty fields of green, let him lean on my shoulder. Tell him how I spent my youth, so the truth could roll up. Tell my father when you can, I was a man. Tell him we will meet again, where the angels learn to fly. Tell him we will meet as men, for with honor did I die. Tell him how I wore the blue, proud and true, through the fire. Tell my father so he'll know I love him so. Tell him we will meet again, where the angels learn to fly. Tell him we will meet as men, for with honor did I die. Tell him how I wore the blue, proud and true, like he taught me. Tell my father not to cry, then say goodbye.
Countries around the world celebrated the conclusion to the Great War. A year later, in 1919, President Wilson proclaimed November 11th as the first Armistice Day, stating that, "To us in America, the reflections of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service and with gratitude for the victory, both because of the thing from which it has freed us and because of the opportunity it has given America to show her sympathy with peace and justice in the councils of the nations." Each year, on November 11th, we honor all of those men and women who have faithfully served in the U.S. Armed Forces. We are joined by other nations such as Britain, France, Australia, and Canada, who also commemorate the veterans of World Wars I and II on or near November 11th.
At this time, I will read the President's Veterans Day Proclamation, shared by the White House shortly before Veterans Day each year. When Francis Scott Key wrote the Star-Spangled Banner over 200 years ago, he called America the land of the free and the home of the brave. These words are as true today as they were then. Throughout this nation's history, America's soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardmen have bravely answered the call to defend our freedom, to aid our friends and allies, and to turn back aggressors. We can never fully repay our debt of gratitude to service members who died in battle or those who were wounded. We can, however, recognize and thank the veterans that are still living today. These words are inscribed on the Korean War Memorial in Washington, D.C. Our nation honors her sons and daughters who answered the call to defend a country they never knew and a people they never met. Those words apply equally to many of our World War I, World War II, Vietnam War, Gulf War, and Iraq veterans as well. They apply to today's active duty service members, tomorrow's veterans, who are helping to maintain peace throughout the world. Today, it is our privilege to say thank you to all of America's veterans, to let them know that we appreciate them for their service and honor them for their sacrifices. The price of freedom is high. We cannot afford to forget those willing to pay the price. Today, we celebrate America's veterans for keeping this nation the land of the free and the home of the brave. Our first veteran that we would like to honor is Senior Master Sergeant Dr. Milton A. Hathaway, joined by his granddaughter, Olivia Hathaway. Please come to the front of the stage now. Senior Master Sergeant Hathaway served 2 years active duty with the United States Air Force and 32 years with the 192nd Fighter Wing, Virginia Air National Guard. His assignments included multiple tours of duty throughout the United States, Great Britain, and Germany. Senior Master Sergeant Dr. Milton A. Hathaway was a professional soldier for 34 years, during which time he held many non-commissioned officer positions, including squad leader, class leader, hazardous materials management specialist, asset management branch chief, and quality awareness instructor. His awards and decorations include the National Defense Service Medal, 2 Meritorious Service Medals, 3 Air Force Commendation Medals, 2 Air Force Achievement Medals, Air Force Good Conduct Medal, Southwest Asia Service Medal, Armed Forces Reserve Medal, and 3 Air Reserve Forces Meritorious Service Medals. He retired on June 3rd, 2003. Thank you for your service.
John Gray, escorted by his daughter, Katie Gray. Mr. Gray retired as a captain from the Army as a combat engineer company commander and served in Operation Iraq Freedom from 2004 through 2005. His highest military honor was a Bronze Star. Thank you for your service.
Scott Mandeville. He is joined today by Godwin students Emily, Sarah, and Matthew Mandeville. Scott Mandeville served on active duty in the United States Navy for 6 years. Lieutenant Mandeville graduated from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in Troy, New York, with a Bachelor's of Science degree in electrical engineering, and he earned his composition. My bad, y'all. I'm from Georgia. And he earned his composition via the Universal Naval Reserve Officers Training Corps program. He served aboard our nation's first nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, the USS Enterprise, as a propulsion plant watch officer, and later on board the guided missile destroyer USS Scott as a surface warfare officer in charge of the ship's deck division. On Enterprise, Lieutenant Mandeville surprise Rector plants operations associated with the carrier's multi-year nuclear refueling overhaul at Newport News Shipbuilding. While on board, Lieutenant Mandeville deployed to the Mediterranean and Arctic seas in support of the United Nations declared no-fly zone over Croatia during the Bosnian War of the early 1990s. Mr. Mandeville currently works in the Informational Technology Department of Virginia Credit Union and he is in the 2022 to 2023 treasurers for the Godwin Band Boosters. Thank you for your service.
Brian Osterfield and Emily Osterfeld, escorted by their daughter, Madeline Osterfeld. Mr. Osterfeld, a retired gunnery sergeant, served for 20 years in the U.S. Marine Corps, from 1996 to 2016. During his service, Gunnery Sergeant Osterfeld served in Operation Silver Wake in Albania, mudslide relief efforts in Italy, the emergency offload of the USS Bobo, Operation Iraqi Freedom, the Global War on Terror in Africa, and Operation Enduring Freedom. Gunnery Sergeant Osterfeld began his service with Marine Security Force Company, Naples, Italy, and was the senior instructor and G2X Department Chief of Operations at what is now the Center for Information Warfare Training in Virginia Beach. He retired from the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force, headquartered at Camp Pendleton, California, where he served concurrently as the G2X Department Chief of Operations and the 1st Marine Expeditionary Brigade G2X Department Chief. Gunnery Sergeant Osterfeld's personal decorations include the Meritorious Service Medal, 2 Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medals, the Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal, and the Combat Action Ribbon. Thank you for your service. Mrs. Osterfeld, a retired gunnery sergeant, served for 21 years in the U.S. Marine Corps, from 1999 to 2021. During her service, Gunnery Sergeant Osterfeld deployed in support of Continuing Promise in the Caribbean and South America. Gunnery Sergeant Osterfeld began her service with the Marine Corps Band, New Orleans, as a French horn instrumentalist, and was the administration chief for the commander, Marine Forces Reserve. She retired from Headquarters Battalion, Marine Forces Reserve, where she served as the Headquarters Battalion Administration Chief. Gunnery Sergeant Osterfeld's personal decorations include 2 Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medals and 2 Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medals. Thank you for your service.
David Stinnett, father of Henry Stinnett. Mr. Stinnett served 3 years in the United States Navy as a service warfare officer aboard the USS Wainwright, CG-28, a guided missile cruiser homeported in Charleston, South Carolina. While stationed abroad, the USS Wainwright, Mr. Stinnett was deployed for 6 months to the Mediterranean Sea in 1986 and deployed for 6 months to the Persian Gulf in 1988, during which time the USS Wainwright participated in Operation Praying Mantis. Mr. Stinnett was honorably discharged as a Navy lieutenant in 1988. Thank you for your service.
John Taylor is joined by his son, Ben Taylor. Mr. Taylor served 8 years in the Virginia Army National Guard from 1999 to 2007. Leaving service as a captain, he served as an executive officer for both E Battery, 111th Field Artillery, and B Battery, 1st of the 24th Field Artillery, and the fire support officers for the 2nd and 183rd Cavalry Squadron. Mr. Taylor was activated several times to include Operation Noble Eagle following the attacks on September 11, 2001, and to support disaster recovery operations following Hurricane Katrina in Louisiana. Thank you for your services. Y'all give him a round of applause. Come on. Yes, yes, thank you, Mr. John. I'm sorry.
Dorothy Bradford, escorted by granddaughter, Cynia Trapp. Mrs. Bradford served as a member of the United States Marine Corps, completing her boot camp training in Parris Island, South Carolina. During the Vietnam War, Mrs. Bradford served in Quantico, Virginia, as a motor vehicle operator. She drove everything from a sedan to a 3-ton cargo truck, proudly serving her country in combat support. She loved the discipline, physical fitness, challenges, and knowing that she was a soldier serving her country. Thank you for your service.
Dwight Johnson is joined by his grandchildren, Evan and Ella Anderegg. Dwight Johnson was a staff sergeant in the U.S. Army. He served in the infantry/special forces. Mr. Johnson's date of service were from 1968 through 1974. Thank you for your service.
Paul McAllister is joined by his daughter, April McAllister. Mr. McAllister, a retired Army Master Sergeant, served for 20 years in the United States Army. Retiring in 2012, MSG, Ms. McAllister served multiple overseas deployments, Operation Restore/Continue Hope in Somalia in 1993 and part of 1994. He also was deployed to Haiti in support of the United Nations mission operation Uphold Democracy in 1995. He also was deployed to Bosnia and Herzegovina in the late 90s. His last deployment was Operation Iraq Freedom, 2005 to 2007, where he was a gunner on a UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter door gunner. MSG McAllister served in the 10th Mountain Division, 1st Armored Division, the Army Missile Command, and various roles in the 29th Infantry Division. His last post was at the platoon sergeant for Detach 1, 116th Special Troops, Balaton Unmanned Aerial Vehicle Unit. His highest military honor is the Air Medal for his service in Iraq. Thank you for your service. All right. Jim Carpenter is joined by his granddaughters, Anna and Brian Barrow. Mr. Carpenter is a retired sergeant, served for 7 years in the 82nd Airborne Division of the U.S. Army Special Forces. Sergeant Carpenter received his jump wing in March of 1957 and was deployed to Bad Tolz, Germany, where he was a PRC-10 radio operator during missions. He enjoyed jumping from back of C-130 airplanes and helicopter during various training missions. In 1959, he returned back to the States, where he joined a jump unit of the Army Reserve. He received his honorable discharge in May 1963. Thank you for your service.
Michael Bernard, escorted by his son, Roman Bernard. Mr. Michael Bernard began his military service in 1996 as an infantryman, with rank of specialist with A Company, 3rd Battalion, 116th Infantry Brigade in Manassas, Virginia. As a second lieutenant, he deployed in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom with the 1032nd Transportation Company out of Gate City, Virginia, from 2003 to 2004, where he led convoys on a total of 800,000 miles, along with a 700-mile line of communications in Iraq and Kuwait. Mr. Bernard is a graduate of the Virginia Army National Guard State Officer Candidate School and United States Army Transportation School, and his highest military honor is the Meritorious Service Medal. Mr. Bernard ended his career as a higher headquarters company commander, 91st Troop Command in Richmond, Virginia, and separated from the Virginia Army National Guard in 2010 with the rank of captain. Thank you for your service.
Fred Bozick is joined by his daughter, Arlie Bozick. Fred Bozick served in the U.S. Army from January 1991 through December 1995. He spent 3 years supporting the 41st Field Artillery Brigade with the 77th Maintenance Company in Babenhausen, Germany. After leaving Germany, he supported the 1st Brigade of the 1st Cavalry Division at Fort Hood, Texas. Thank you for your service.
Derek Q. Wynn, escorted by Godwin students Christopher A. Wynn and Quentin J. Wynn. Derek Wynn retired in 2004 after 23.5 years of service in the active duty Air Forces and as a member of Kansas Air National Guard. While in the Air Forces, Mr. Wynn was stationed at RAF Upper Hayford, England, Wright-Patterson AFB, Ohio, and Hanscorn AFB, Massachusetts. After leaving active duty, he joined the 190th Aerial Refueling Wing of the Kansas Air National Guard in Topeka, Kansas, as a full-time uniformed technician. Technical Sergeant Wynn served during Operations Desert Shield/Desert Storm, Iraq Freedom, and deployed twice for Enduring Freedom. Sergeant Wynn was also worked to deploy a field hospital to New Orleans during relief efforts for Hurricane Katrina. Mr. Wynn is married to Kimberly Wynn and is the father of Christopher and Quentin, who also attend Godwin High School. Thank you for your services.
David Stokes is joined by his daughter, Isabel Stokes. From 1989 through 1993, Mr. Stokes was stationed at Fort Ord, California, home of the 7th Infantry Division's Night Fighters, and was assigned to the 4th Battalion, 21st Infantry Regiment. He actively participated in Operations Just Cause and Promote Liberty in Panama from 1989 to 1990, and then in Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm in the Persian Gulf from 1990 to 1991. From 1993 through 1995, he was stationed to the 101st Infantry Division in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and was assigned to the 3rd Battalion, 327th Infantry Regiment before being honorably discharged for the second time. Notable experiences during his service include Airborne School, Fort Benning in Georgia, Ranger School, Fort Benning in Georgia, Sniper School, Fort Benning, Georgia, and Air Assault School, Fort Campbell, Kentucky. He received numerous awards and citations including Expert Infantry Badge, Combat Infantry Badge with Star, honorably discharged twice. Thank you for your service.
Today and every day, it is with admiration that we remember the service and heroism and sacrifices all of our veterans make. Will everyone please stand as now the playing of taps by Godwin Sr. Will Vaughn.